Linda, thanks very much. For the avoidance of doubt, it is the arrows, not that it's the arrows, yes, okay. Hello, I'm Linda, Development Manager for the Gloucestershire Centre for Environmental Records. Today I want to just have a quick mention of a questionnaire that we did for consultants, which is actually a repeat of one that we did in 2010. So relating to what Kieran was just saying, what do people want? We have actually asked them in the past. We've had questionnaires, which are SurveyMonkey questionnaires for recorders, about what they wanted from the Record Centre. We have done a questionnaire before for consultants to make sure that we're providing what they need. And as with the previous questionnaire, this is coming at a time when, following on again from what we've heard earlier, we are thinking of overhauling our database. Our current system isn't ideal for curating our data anymore exactly how we'd want to, and like a lot of other record centres, we're going through the process of thinking about how we can change this. Are we going to move on from Recorder 6, and if so, how? We obviously need to make sure that whatever we change to, we can provide what people need, not necessarily just what people want, because they might not know that until they see it, but if we can't provide what people need from us, they won't come to us at all, and the whole thing will collapse. So this is GSA. It's a fairly long-standing record centre. It's smallish, with 2.2 full-time equivalent staff and a handful of volunteers. It's hosted by a Wildlife Trust. We cover the administrative county of Gloucestershire, which is small to medium, so for the middle of England, it's probably medium. It has a fairly low population, but it has an awful lot of recording. About a third of the area is AOMB, and we get a lot of records from people that don't live in Gloucestershire, but they've come there as tourists, they've come to visit Slimbridge, and then they've gone on to other nature reserves. They like the Cotswolds, which obviously attracts a lot of recording. We also have very active Wildlife Trust with community groups, and we have groups like the Stroud Wildlife Survey Group as well, and a couple of others that are coming up. So a lot of keen recording activity. Those records go into our Master Recorder 6 database. We also have Gloucestershire Naturalist Society, which have county recorders which produce a lot of records in some cases, and they, if they produce enough, they use a MapMate database. So we have two main data storage databases and over a couple of million records. Of those records, we probably have over half of them for the last 10 years. So like others, we've found more records coming in recently. The brainwork for our outputs and analysis for those records is not done in Recorder and MapMate. It's exported. We need more and more spatial data and maps. And although you can use SQL Server databases like the Recorder one with a spatial extension, it's proprietary, you have to pay for it. Recorder itself doesn't tap into modern spatial database situations that well. You can do it, you can plug separately into the database, but it's not ideal. So we're quite often taking things out and using QGIS. Our future database will have to combine some more of these things so that we're not taking loads of data out of one thing into another and reformatting it and everything. And it needs to be spatial right from the get-go, because everything seems to need maps. Our income at the moment, it is, so there we are, no need to be coy, it's just over 100 grand last year. You can see local authorities still chip in quite a lot. It's not a fortune for a local environmental record centre, but it's not the smallest income of one either. And the central block is commercial data searches. So they're really important to us. And this is about researching their needs. So we sent out a questionnaire similar to the one we sent in 2010, and that was sent out to 125 consultants. I should say some of those won't use GSA that often. So, you know, there may be somebody that only asks us once a year. Some of them will be regulars. So my colleague who's sitting over there will hear from some of them every month at least. We got 27 responses, and if there's anybody here from a consultancy that's responded, thank you, because they're really, really busy and have very little spare time, and it was quite a detailed questionnaire, so we got some pretty good responses. It was a SurveyMonkey questionnaire. Questions covered. What are your views? So in other words, are they reasonably happy with what we're doing at the moment? What might they need from us in the future? Have they tried online data search services? And if they paid for data online, how useful did they find it? We also asked a couple of questions about how consultants use the MBN. So this relates to the whole kind of what uses the data. We've got loads and loads of records. I mean, it's over 2 million, a lot of which are fairly recent. We've gone to the trouble of validating them and verifying. We've got this great naturalist society, they're quite high quality records. They can be powerful in this context because people are using them. They're actually basing decisions on things which we're giving them. We want them to carry on doing that. And I want us to carry on using the MBN, which we're not really getting any funding for doing at the moment, but the discipline of using the Darwin Core archive format, the discipline also in the future of making sure things fit the Gemini format is really valuable. It helps our curating of data. It also gives a kind of badge really to our data. It says it's up to a certain standard, you know, it's up to government standard. It's been looked at this level. So, quick questionnaire results. How did people rate us for the things that they got from us? Out of 4 stars, none of them is really fed up with anything, but they're not absolutely totally thrilled. But as a general rule, they quite like being able to ask us queries. The standard search reports, again, just over 3 out of 4 on average. So this is 27 people, so it's not a huge data set. I have to say, as a general rule, consultants are nice. They really like us. They're kind of supportive. They say nice things. They grumble occasionally about data formats and things, but they're pretty supportive, and I really want to go on supplying data to them if we possibly can. Comments about the current data supply. These are really awkward to put in PowerPoint. Obviously, they're a bit wordy. We had some nice comments. We also had a fair bit of constructive criticism. There was more comments. They all did comments. Comments are very handy. I recommend them, but obviously they're not so good to display. People really wanted more mapping. Had they used other services? Nearly all of them had used other lurks. Had they used online services? Kind of, yeah, most. So had they done data searches online, for example? Had they got outputs online? Not so many. Had they paid online? Hardly anyone. They didn't seem terribly thrilled about paying online, actually. Obviously, it wasn't a great priority thing. For making online search requests, which most of them had done, obviously it wasn't all of them, so I've put the numbers next to how many people it was. The vast majority were quite happy with that. There weren't too many complaints, really. A couple of them, I think, felt it was a bit slow. Comments about the searches online, maybe felt it was a bit complicated. They also liked being able to ask us about it, and they definitely wanted to download things. Had they used the atlas? Yep, some of them used it for both habitat and species data. Quite a lot of them for just species, and a fair few hadn't used it. And this is in a work context. This is not just had they looked at it. It was, did they use it for work? I haven't put the full questions out because they're a bit wordy for this, but that was basically the question. Now it's become the atlas. Would it change how people use it? Most of them, no. One grumbly one, we thought it was less useful. And 5, pleasingly, because I prefer the new atlas as well, and I think in general our recorders mostly do, although they also have a few grumbles, but 5 of them said they thought it was better. Which is great, because the vast majority that responded that used the atlas did find that, they haven't been disadvantaged by the change. There were some comments, time-related. They felt the resolution was too low. Well, it's kind of not really designed for them to use for that purpose. Some of them said that the system was better because it was less slow now. Couldn't replace a record centre. Use it for quick background checks. Not always detailed enough, and you can miss records sometimes depending on scale. So, consultants said they liked being asked. Well, a slight change from the 2010 results. The comment sections were really useful. And it's worth getting some quantifiable answers as well. I didn't show you all the sort of multiple choice bits. It was a fairly lengthy survey for a SurveyMonkey survey. It also has given us a useful context to tell to the Wildlife Trust, because they're hosting us. A lot of the time we're dealing with external organisations. I don't know quite what we're up to. It's helped in the past. Thank you for listening. We can provide more information later. Thank you.